Hello, I'm back. I tried to make it earlier today. Um, I wanted to speak to you guys about something completely different today because I I've mentioned before I have a dad who lives around the corner and I look after him a lot. And I've this morning I was just thinking of all the carers out there, all the people who are carers for a relative. And I just wanted to share a little bit of my reality because I think that this is something I really didn't have a lot of awareness of this for years. And what happened for us is my father was living in the United States. We in Europe, and he was living over there for 20, he lived there for 20 years. And he had a stroke in 2013, and he still stayed in the States after the stroke, but he gradually became weaker and weaker and more isolated because he doesn't have a lot of family over there, and the family he did have lived far and wasn't involved in his care, so he was basically alone. So in 2016, he was basically sent back to us. There was one person who was a very, very good person, very kind and generous person who took, who cared for him as best she could, but it was, she wasn't related to him, and eventually it got too much, and she felt he wasn't getting enough good care. And she got in touch with my sister and myself, and she said, your father really just needs to be close to family. And he was basically sent back to us. He didn't want to come. We were fine with it, but he didn't want to come back to Europe and to Switzerland. But he didn't really have a choice. So suddenly, more or less overnight, my life and my sister's life changed very dramatically, because our father, well, not only he had a stroke in 2013, so he has leftovers from that. He can't walk properly at all. He's very weak. Um, he has various issues which not very nice to talk about, but as a result of his stroke, he can't control all his bodily functions, and it's difficult for him. He shakes a lot. He can't walk properly. He can't take care of himself very well, although in many ways he still is quite okay. I mean, he can talk. He can he is living alone. He can just about cope. Um, so it's sort of strange. He's very disabled in a way, but he can still sort of cope on his own, and he very much wants to stay on his own. But he has to have people who check on him daily, obviously, and he's constantly at risk of falling, and he falls regularly. He has a little sort of alarm bracelet which he pushes and which is linked to an alarm services who alerts us if he falls and can't get up. Well, when he falls, he can't get up on his own. Now we need to go and help him up. And it's complicated. He can't go out to do his own shopping, so we do all of that. He's also pretty affected in his cognitive faculties, so he can't. It's sort of strange. Some days he's quite okay, a bit like you and me. He can talk politics, he can follow what's going on the news and all that stuff. And other days he's very, very disorientated. He doesn't know if it's the day or the night. He gets everything confused. He doesn't know where he's living. He doesn't know anyway. he doesn't know who, he knows who I am, but he thinks I'm my sister, and it's kind of really strange. So I'm just telling you all this because it just made me realize, this is really put me in a world which I just didn't know, which is the world of carers. And there's just a tremendous amount of work to do. It's a huge responsibility, really, because you suddenly are kind of looking after a parent who is an adult, who can still make some decisions, but who can't make many other decisions, um, who can be quite difficult at times, quite temperamental, who has his own mind about what he wants and what he doesn't want. Sometimes it's completely unrealistic. And it's just hard work. What made me think of all this was this morning, I just to give you an idea, so I woke up and I noticed my dad had called me on my mobile twice in the night, which is quite frequent. I always put my mobile on silent in the night, and I have the landline that's by my bed, just in case there's an emergency. I get called on the landline. So he'd left me two messages, which I listened to. And in these two messages, he was completely disorientated. One of them was, Sophie, you need to tell me what time we're leaving tomorrow because I haven't packed. And I have no idea what gave him this, why he talked about that. We're not going anywhere. He doesn't have a doctor's appointment. Nothing justifies this question. I don't know why he asked. And the next message was at 1:30 in the morning, and that was, he was very worried because he wasn't able to get in touch with his son, but I don't really know why, because he's not in touch much with his son. So I don't know what brought this up. So anyway, I listened to these messages and had my cup of tea, and then at 7:15 the phone rings again, and I pick it up, and it's my dad again. And this time he said to me, "Oh, Sophie, the electricity is not working in my house." And he says, "Well, the lights are working." So I thought, oh, well, the electricity must be working. But I can't boil any water, and my cooker isn't working. So I said, okay, I'll get dressed, I'll come over. So anyway, I went over, and indeed there was a fuse that had blown. His kettle was broken. Some obviously some electrical thing had gone on and happened. So I sorted all this out, and then I realized he didn't have any proper clothes to wear. All the things that fit him were in the wash. The washing machine had been put on, but nothing had been, put out to dry. So he had some pants that were far too big for him and falling down. And anyway, so I hung all that washing, and hopefully it will be dry in a few hours and he'll be able to change in something more comfortable. And I made him a cup of tea, and I made him a little breakfast to eat, and then he started to tell me that he has a problem with his eyes. So I've been trying to get in touch with the eye doctor so we can go and show him there. And of course, I have to go and buy a new kettle because his kettle is broken. So just the list is endless. I got back home at 9, and then of course this morning we did school with the kids. This afternoon I have to bring one child to a little workshop he's doing, and then of course I have to do all the millions of things I have to do at home, and I'll have to go and bring my dad his something to eat and his new kettle, and yeah, and anyway, the day will be long. I mean, every day is long, and I'm not saying this to complain, but I'm just saying this because I think that many people just don't realize what it's like. It's just never ending, and I never know what tomorrow will be like. I never know whether my dad will be in a good shape or in or bad. I never know whether he'll be alert or sleeping all day. I never know whether he'll be aggressive. Some days he's very aggressive, very angry, or if he'll be kind the way he was today. I never know. I never know whether there's going to be an emergency, whether I'm going to be woken up in the night or not. It's so full of unknowns, of question marks about my day, about my week. Um, and it's so full of things that I just have to do because I can't leave him on his own without a kettle, without a cooker that works, without, proper clothes to wear. Um, Even though some days I don't have time to go and help him, I have to make this time because it's just a priority. And sometimes it's very tiring and frustrating, and I often feel very powerless because and very guilty because I would like to help more. I would like to do more. He would really need somebody who takes him out every day, but I can't. I don't have time, so I don't do it. And it's quite draining, and I really am in awe of all these carers out there who do. Some do much more for a parent or a spouse than I do, or a child, um, than I do for my dad. I do have help. We have a good healthcare system in Switzerland, so we do have paid help who comes and who's paid for by our insurance. So that's a great help. So it could be much worse, and yet it's already really draining. And so I just wanted to send, yeah, a lot of love and courage to those who are in a similar situation to mine, and say you're doing a great job. And yeah, we have to just encourage each other and be there for each other. That is what I wanted to say for today. And I'm going to go back to the children now, make lunch, and go on with my day. I will see you tomorrow for another episode of my life. Bye.